In this video, we're going to talk about how to calculate the mean of a grouped frequency table. So what we have here is the grade and the score of students. And you can see the score interval 0 to 39 is an F, 40 to 44 is an E, 45 to 49 is a D, 50 to 59 is a C, 60 to 69 is a B, and 70 to 100 is an A in most Nigerian universities. The third column contains the frequency. So this tells us the number of students who scored in this range. For instance, there are 3 students who got an F in the exam. That is, these 3 students score within the range of 0 to 39. We don't know their exact score, but because they had an F, their score is either 39 or lower than 39. They could score 39, one of them could score 25, the other might score 0. We don't know exactly. So what we know is their score is either 39 or lower than 39. 5 students had an E, that is, they had a score between 40 to 44. So with this data, how can we calculate the mean score in this class? Now, it's important to understand that we cannot compute the exact mean for the score in this class. And the reason why that is the case is because we just don't know the individual data value in the data set. So therefore, we can estimate the mean. Now, we know that the mean is basically the summation of f of x divided by the summation of f. Now, since we don't know the individual data value, which is supposed to be our x, we're gonna need something close to individual data value to be our x, and that is the midpoint. The midpoint is the closest value to individual data value. So let's take this one step at a time. Let's calculate the midpoint values first. So to calculate the midpoint, take the sum of the lower limits and the sum of the upper limits divided by 2. So in this interval, 0 is the lower limits, 39 is the upper limits. So the midpoint will be 0 plus 39 divided by 2. 0 plus 39 is 39 divided by 2 will be 19.5. So the midpoint in this interval is 19.5. In the second interval, 40 is the lower limit, 44 is the upper limit. So the midpoint is going to be 40 plus 44 divided by 2. 40 plus 44 is 84. Divided by 2, we have 42. So the midpoint is 42 in this interval. Now, using the same procedure, calculate for the midpoint of the remaining intervals. This will be 47. Next will be 54.5, 64.5, and 85. So our next step is to take the sum of the frequency column. So this will give us this particular value, which will help us to calculate the mean. So it's gonna be 3 plus 5 plus 6 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7, which is gonna be 38. So yes, a total of 38 students in this class. So the next thing we need to calculate is the sum of the frequency times the midpoint value. So what we're gonna do is to multiply these two. Now let's call this f times x. So what we're gonna do is to multiply the frequency by the midpoint. So 3 times 19.5, that is gonna be 58.5. So multiply these two values, which is 210, and then 6 times 47, that is gonna be 282. 9 times 54.5 is 490.5. Then 8 times 64.5 is gonna be 516. Lastly, 7 times 85 is gonna be 595. Now let's take the sum of this column. So go ahead and add those numbers using a calculator. So the total that I have is 2152. Now we know the summation of f, and it is 38, and the summation of fx is 2152. So now we can calculate the mean, which is the sum of f times x divided by the sum of f. So this correlates with this number. That is, we're going to have 2152 divided by the total frequency, which we have here, and that is 38. Now, before we divide it, where do you think the mean is going to be? In which interval? Will it be in this interval, this one, this one? Which one? Notice the highest frequency occur here. The chances are the mean is going to be between 50 and 59, because most students scored in that range. So if we take 2152 divided by 38, we have 56.63. And that makes sense since most students they had a C on the test. So the mean score of this data set is equal to 56.63. So this is how we can find the mean of a grouped data. Solve this problem for the sake of practice and drop your answer in the comments. But for simplicity, I recommend you rearrange before solving. That is, rearrange into column, class interval, and the frequency. So we have the class interval of 20 to 24, and the frequency is 11. The next is 25 to 29, and the frequency is 12. Then we have 30 to 34, and the frequency is 8, and 35 to 39, and the frequency is 7. Now go ahead and solve using the same method we used in the previous example. And if this video is helpful, do not forget to like and subscribe.